It is Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, and you are tuned into the fastest half hour in podcasting. Welcome to HTM Sports. My name is Jargo. I will be your host for the day. Give it up for the wingman, RBV. Welcome back to HTM Sports.
It's me. It's that R of the feet of the V. Rick Vickery back again. Hashtag HTM Sports. Jargo, we got a hell of a run today. So much to cover from the gridiron and beyond, and a little bit of heartbreak here at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I know we're Duke homers, and everybody knows that we're Duke homers. So at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the gross injustice that happened at Cameron Indoor last night. But Huckleberry, let's go ahead. Let's kick things off with the NFL. Of course, the playoffs in full swing. We're going into championship weekend. Thought we'd take a little bit of a look at the divisional round. You know, our boy Colin Cowherd, he likes to do where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. Well, where Jargo was right, where Jargo was wrong. I was totally wrong on Saturday, but I nailed the shit out of Sunday.
Well, I was going to say, well, hey, it doesn't matter where you were right, because you're ultimate wrong, because you were riding that colt, you were riding that pony all the way to the Super Bowl, and the shoes came off, if you will.
Yeah, let's just say that the luck ran out. Let's put it that way. Shout out to our boy Smokey joining us in the chat room. Chiefs rout the Colts 31-13. Huckleberry, I actually expected this score. I expected this game. I just expected the two teams to be wearing the other team's jerseys. Basically, the Chiefs did exactly to the Colts what I thought the Colts were going to do to the Chiefs. Come out, jump on them early. Not nearly enough firepower for Andrew Luck and the boys to come on back. Kansas City was just the better team, and I don't know what was up with the Andrew Luck, because his footwork was just in the toilet on Saturday.
Well, I was going to say, you're talking about game planning. In Kansas City, hey, what have they played up to now? This was their 17th game of the season.
Yep.
And look what the defense finally showed up.
Yeah, it's about time.
They absolutely brought it. They were crashing the party up front, having their way with up to this, what has been a very solid Colts offensive line. I mean, the penetration was unbelievable. They were all over Luck before he had time to even think about what to do. They were bringing the pressure, and that's what paid off for them. They got to the Colts early. They shook them up, and they could never recover there. And then on the flip side, the Kansas City offense, it was cold, but it wasn't slick. They weren't going to be slowed down at all, and they went out there and just performed, what we're used to. And Mahomes went out there and exactly showed why he has earned the league MVP. The things that he has done for the entire league, just not his team there. He went out there and put on a great performance when under that spotlight, and they get the Andy Reid playoff monkey off their back.
Yeah, do you think that this actually gets the monkey off of their back? I mean, they got that first win underneath of their belt. I mean, that's really the biggest one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think it's all about getting that first step, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can't finish the race until you take that first step, and that's what this was here. And they did it in impressive fashion. And it's not like they went out there in the middle of the season getting some chump team. This Colts team was one of the best in the league going in here, one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs. And Kansas City was able to take it to that next level, that playoff level, and take care of business.
You say that this Colts team was a good team, and the question I guess I have for you is, were they really? I mean, we know that the Colts were overachieving. We know that they're at least a year away from their grand vision for this thing. This was really Andrew Luck just carrying this team all the way to the divisional round. This is kind of who we thought the Colts were going to be all year, don't you think?
I think, when you're that quarterback and things are going right, you're going to get all that credit. On the flip, though, when things are going wrong, look at your Green Bay Packers. Rodgers taking a lot of heat up there.
Well, it helps that we don't have an owner to blame, too.
Well, what you've got there, though, is, yes, they were a good team. And as I also kind of correct myself there, they were a very hot team. They were playing good football on both sides of the ball. Last week in Houston, that defense, they looked like one of the best in the league at that time. And this is the NFL week to week. You got to come ready. You let down a little bit, and a team's going to get you, especially when you're playing playoff caliber football. And Kansas City kind of just let everyone know why they are the number one seed.
Yeah, we'll see about that next week. Let's talk about the Rams. The Rams absolutely run over the Cowboys, and I mean literally, ladies and gentlemen. C.J. Anderson goes for 123 yards. Todd Gurley goes for 115 yards. Rick, these guys just ran the ball right down Dallas's throat.
Well, they came out. They just won it ground and pound. We're going to take it right at you. We know we're talking about great defenses for through the league. Dallas was right up there all year.
Yeah,
the Rams just said, "Hey, we're going to come out swinging. We're going to punch you right in the mouth."
Yeah, and then we talked about that Rams defense, being ranked 19th in the league against the run. We know the Dallas formula. I've been talking about it for weeks. The formula is real simple. Zeke goes for 100 yards, and Amari Cooper goes for 100 yards. Dak looks good, and the Cowboys win. Let's take a look at the formula this week. Ezekiel Elliott goes for 47 yards. Amari Cooper, 6 receptions for 65 yards. Yeah, and the Cowboys get beat. Go figure. Now, I think it is of note, Michael Gallup did go for 119 yards for the Cowboys, so, there is that. Dak goes 20 of 32, 266 yards, 1 touchdown. But here's the story of the game, and this is kind of the story of the whole weekend. Time of possession, Rams, 36 minutes, 13 seconds. Cowboys, 23 minutes and 47 seconds. You can't score if you don't have the ball.
Well, I want to say my MVP for this game. We were just talking about a defense showing up in Kansas City. Well, hey, an even better one showed up for the Rams this week. This is the best that they have looked on defense. They've been kind of on that bend, don't break, but they actually started shattering walls themselves. Sue had a phenomenal game, and they, the actual standout amongst that defense, Littleton this week. Always. The undersized little engine that could. He was everywhere, play after play, big moment after big moment. He carried that defense, and again, they just stuck it to the Cowboys. The Cowboys now 0-8 on the road in playoff games, the longest streak in the NFL. And hey, that's got a sting down there in the Big D.
As far as the Rams go, going forward, I think I'd run the same game plan against New Orleans next week. They can't score if they don't have the ball. You got a two-headed monster. You got 2 backs going for over 100 yards. You can have the ball for 36 minutes. That's my game plan against Drew Brees.
Well, I think they're really gonna look at. I know we're gonna get to that game here in a moment, but they're really gonna look at how the Eagles handled themselves early in that game. I think you got to follow a lot of that same blueprint there. Incorporate what you did this week. You want to come out fast and then control that clock on them.
Now, of course, we typically. We're wrestling guys. That's how this show started. Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, hittingthemarks.podbean.com. I'm going to make a wrestling analogy here for these next 2 games, Rick. Over the course of the weekend, we got to see Jay Lethal versus Dalton Castle. And Dalton Castle starts off the match, and he's hurt, and he knows that if he is going to beat Jay Lethal, he's got to do it fast because he doesn't have a whole lot in the tank. We saw that strategy go down in New England as the Patriots smack around the Chargers 41-28. Now, typically, 41-28, yeah, that kind of sounds like a blowout. But, Rick, this game wasn't even that close. This game was 35-7 at halftime. It was ridiculous.
Well, I think, we look at what the Chargers have been doing. They've been going into this game. They were 8-1 on the road this season. And when we really break that down, they were very close games. They came over to key turnovers, questionable officiating calls. Almost any of those games could have gone against the Chargers. This season, Lady Luck was on their side. They prevailed in each of those. So I think, coming in, the Patriots were very quiet. They went back to that old school mentality of Patriots. Let's keep everything to ourselves here. We're going to go out here and play Patriot football. Like you said, they came out charging. They no pun intended. They came out charging against the Chargers. And they knew it. If they give themselves enough space, we're not going to give the Chargers that opportunity to steal another one in a close football game. We're going to have this thing over with at halftime. We can kind of rest a little bit. We're going to start getting ready for, either hosting next week or we're going to have to go on the road.
So let's talk a little bit about the Patriots. As you can see, I'm donning my GOAT jersey and my Patriots cap today. Rick, here's the thing about the Patriots. I heard this yesterday, and I could not hardly believe it. If you are going to beat the Patriots, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, and you're going to beat the Patriots, you have to do it this weekend. The Patriots have 12 draft picks this year in the draft, and 6 of them in the first 3 rounds. They're going to move off of Gronkowski this offseason. They're going to have a ton of cap space. They're about to get Brady some weapons. If you don't beat him now, you're not going to beat him.
Yeah, they're getting ready to go into and I don't even say like reshuffle or anything. It's just reload mode. And they're going to come out firing even harder next year. So if anyone's going to pick them off, if it be in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl, this is going to be it, because you got to believe the Patriots are setting themselves up for they're going to be back there consistently for the next half decade.
It's ridiculous. This is their 8th straight AFC Championship game.
Wow, pretty incredible.
And we all know that this has been a down year for the Patriots. Tom Brady in his press conference yesterday, he even says, yeah, I know, we suck.
Yeah, I'm kind of loving the cockiness there. He's catching some flack on that thing. But we've talked about a couple times, like when these coaches were getting fired, how we'd love to just see a straight up heel turn. Like Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. Like, you know what? Finally, I'm out of this dump. I'm sick of these ugly ass individuals from the 513. I'm moving to Miami. You guys can suck it. Your team's gonna suck for it. We've been waiting for that heel turn. Well, we've been kind of getting that snarky heel from Brady here. I especially loved it after the game the other day. He just kind of looks over and laughs like, oh, yeah, we're not supposed to be any good. And then he goes into the cheesy, yeah, I just want to say hello to my wife and my parents and my neighbor's dog. And it was so campy. It was so brilliantly done. And it just irks people to know it.
Tom Brady was born with a chip on his shoulder. He got an even bigger chip on his shoulder playing up at the big house in Michigan. Then he gets drafted to New England. I remember watching Brady at Michigan. I didn't think that he was an NFL quarterback in any way, shape, or form. So he's got a chip on his shoulder there. Bledsoe goes out. Everybody in New England loves Bledsoe. Brady comes in, chip on his shoulder. And now here we are, 18 years later, and the media is putting a bigger chip on Tom Brady's shoulder. This is a bad idea. This is as bad of an idea as writing off the Patriots in September.
We're going to find out.
Just don't do it. Let's talk about the Saints. The Saints come back to beat the Eagles. This was actually the Dalton Castle versus Jay Lethal rematch. Eagles come out, pull the Dalton Castle card. We're going to start fast. And over the course of time, the Saints just plain come back and beat them. Rick, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Nick Foles goes 8 of 9. And from that Marshawn Lattimore interception on, it was a completely different football game.
Well, like you said, the Saints, they had a solid game plan going in here. And you sent me that photo of the motivation that Coach Payton laid on the Saints there. How much was in there? It was he pretty much brought the display. It had the Super Bowl trophy, the ring, and what,
$250,000 in cash and 2 armed guards
in singles. If you can imagine how much money that is, it was all in singles, and basically told his team, "Hey, you win 3 more football games. At that point, you win 3 more football games, and this is yours. This is for each of you. You're gonna have this." So that's the motivation you need there. The Saints themselves, hey, the Eagles came out. They knew they had to be a very much different football team than the last time they had visited New Orleans, where they were absolutely embarrassed, blown out of the Superdome there. They came out. They wanted this thing. They were hungry. They wanted to get back to that Super Bowl to prove everybody, the naysayers, that they still had it. But unfortunately, this year the Saints are just a better team. The Saints just, put on some wear down holds on them. And just ultimately just kind of broke their spirit, took control of that game. And you say, that interception, that's what broke their kind of spirit. That was the game changer. The Saints come in, hold control of that game, and the Saints are marching on to the NFC Championship game.
Time of possession goes to the Saints, 37-50 to the Eagles, 22-10. Rick, I thought that the Saints were this big, super high-powered offense that just moved the ball up and down the field like it was absolutely nothing. And then I watched this game, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. That's not who the Saints are at all. The Saints are a team that is going to beat you up front and just pummel you into submission and then run a play-action pass, and Breeze goes over the top for 70 freaking yards.
Well, it just shows, you got to show that you've got a diverse offense, that you can play any style of game, and it's going to keep your opponents on their toes. Now, going forward next week, we got the round 2 of the game of the year.
Philly, a fake punt away from a date with the Rams. If you're Philly, how do you feel about this? We knew Philly came into the year beat up. Coming into that second half, they're without their best defensive player. You're without your quarterback. I mean, now granted, Nick Foles was Nick Foles, but what do you do if you're Philly? How do you feel going into this offseason?
I think with all the adversity that they faced throughout this year, I mean, obviously you're very disappointed. Last year at this time, you were marching into the NFC Championship game on your way to a Super Bowl championship. I mean, that is a major pullback. But when you kind of, wipe the mirror clean and have to take a good hard look at it, you gotta feel pretty good about moving forward, right? You're going to get some players back. You've got some room to make moves to improve at spots. You're kind of getting yourself back on track for those players you lost in that Super Bowl year. Because, hey, that's no secret for any team. You win a Super Bowl, you're going to lose key elements of your team, because they're going to get the paydays, things like that. So if you're Philly and you're looking at the rest of your division, I think, right now they're the hands down to go in there and win that thing next year.
Who's the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 of next season?
I know this is going to be a great debate. I still just don't see how you don't continue to roll with Foles. I mean, I think you've got to make room and let him know that this is his team.
I go the other way. I'm a Carson Wentz guy. It'll be interesting. That's a very interesting story to follow this offseason. So
whichever way they go, I feel that they have to just go with one at this point.
Yeah, I don't think Philly's big enough for the two of them at this point. Let's take a look at championship week. Here's your preview. Sunday at 3:05 Eastern time on Fox. It's going to be Rams at Saints. Saints beat the Rams 45-35 in the regular season. This thing, what do you think here, man? Do you think we're going to have another shootout like this, 45-35, or do you think this game's going to be a whole lot closer and it's going to end up being like 23-17?
In either direction it goes, I wouldn't be surprised, if we get a damn near repeat where these guys are going out there and lighting up the scoreboard. And I'm not going to be surprised if it's kind of a grounded out, just a good old-fashioned slugfest. Who's going to take advantage of each other. But in either case, to me, they're equally as exciting. I think this thing is going to live up to the billing, and we're going to exceed what we saw excitement-wise, simply just because of how high the stakes are here. This is up for a chance to go on to the Super Bowl. And what a statement that would be, for the Rams going back to L.A. And, of course, on the other side, Drew Brees getting an opportunity to grab another ring, sets him apart, puts him truly amongst the elite that have played at the position of quarterback.
If Brees wins another Super Bowl, do you think he walks away, John Elway style?
No, I really think he still has, this team has more in its tank. He has more in its tank. This coach has more in its tank. I just don't think it's time for any of them to even, contemplate going, stepping away from the game. If anything, I think it just adds more fuel. Let's go get another one. Let's try to back-to-back this thing.
6:40 p.m. Patriots at Chiefs. We saw this game earlier this season, 43-40 in the regular season. This very early on when offenses were just going absolutely balls out hairy ass, as we like to say in my friend's circle. I don't think we're going to get that game. It sounds like it's going to be 9 degrees in Kansas City, and it's going to be gross.
Was just looking at before we went on the air. At kickoff, it is scheduled to be around 11 degrees. Wind chill is going to take us down to anywhere from 1 to -3. That's only going to decline as this game goes on. It's really, we're going to be playing under the lights there.
Okay, now let me ask you, who does that favor?
You cut me off to it, man. You jumped ahead of me there. I was going to my point. When I saw this, and I'm looking at experienced playoffs like that, who's used to this, I think just the weather itself has just flipped the field advantage to the Patriots.
Yep. Where did Patrick Mahomes play his college football? Down in Texas. Where did Tom Brady play his college football? In the big house in Michigan. And they're used to Foxborough. I'm telling you, man, everything about this game is telling me the Patriots are going to go in there and they're going to do Patriot things.
Well, I don't know how much standing on the sideline in the big house prepares you for a game like this, but you are right. He's got all of that history in cold weather championship games up in New England. And I definitely think, when I saw this weather report, the first thing I thought was, man, this is a game changer. This is advantage Patriots. And as you're talking about, just not Mahomes. how he's going to be able to adapt to something like this, on top of the cold weather, the pressure of the Patriots, the AFC Championship. Last week, let's get that monkey off our back. We got to get this big win. This is a whole new ball game, and this is another level trying to dethrone the Patriots as the top dogs in the AFC. But when you get out there, this is for all the players. You start start slapping pads and all that. It stings. It hurts.
Hell yes.
It takes a lot out of you. You have to mentally fight through that, and it's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see. To see how Kansas City reacts to that. Where again, the Patriots have been there, and this is where we're really going to see Andy Reid. He's going to have to be at his finest. He's no stranger to this. He's going to have to get his team up, get them ready, this is. It's funny to say this. They're the number one team in the AFC. They looked so impressive last week. They're going to have to go to another level, and that's going to fall on the coach's shoulders.
Do you feel like Kansas City should be dogs at home? I kind of do.
I don't know if I'd ever say to the dog, but I could see this thing dropping down to a damn near pick.
Yeah. God, that's crazy. Let's go ahead. Let's talk a little bit about the NBA. We've been neglecting the NBA, and we're about halfway through the season at this point. I'm going with the Patriots, duh. Things are getting interesting inside of the NBA as we approach the halfway point here. Rick, I thought that we'd run through basically what would be your playoff teams, plus one in the West, of course, and kind of take a look and see what the landscape even looks like. Because, right here directly, we're going to be out of football to talk about. So we got to start talking about something else. So let's throw things over to the NBA. In the Eastern Conference, currently leading, you've got the Toronto Raptors, best record in the league at 33-12. What do you think of Kawhi Leonard and everything that's going on up there in Toronto?
I think Toronto is an interesting situation. You can look at the team itself. They were sitting right around here last year. Yep. They were leading the way in the East, and I think the one thing that they're looking towards is the playoff, and thanking the sweet Lord above that the one King LeBron James no longer resides in the land. He is out in La La Land now. That was that obstacle they couldn't get over. They have these phenomenal regular seasons. They go over these high seeds. They run into LeBron in the playoffs, and it looks like they have no business being there. I mean, it's cost their head coach last year, a great head coach, cost him his job just because he simply could not beat LeBron in the playoffs.
Makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals and gets fired.
And I think with the Raptors here, they're cruising like they were. Now it's going to be interesting, as we get down to the playoff time, to see if that sets in on them. If they show any concern or they start maybe. They're overconfident maybe that, hey, LeBron's not here. This is our time. Does someone else come get them? Are they easy pickings for other superstars?
I can't buy them at this point. I understand that they have the best record in the league, but look at the teams that they're playing. They're playing in the Eastern Conference. They're beating teams that they should be beaten.
Well, I think it's a case of it's a case of two leagues in the NBA, and I don't think you can't really fault the East for that. It's it's the way we play the game. They don't have to be better than the West right now. The only time you have to be better than the West is in the finals. Yep. And at that point, when you're the East, and it's been this way for going on near a decade. If you're in the East, you hope that you're rested up. You hope that you've got enough ammo, and that the West has beaten themselves up, where whoever is challenging you for that championship is down a little bit, and you can pick one off.
The rest of the East kind of shakes out like this: Milwaukee, Indiana, Philly, Boston, Miami, Brooklyn, and Charlotte bringing up the rear. The final playoff spot, if the playoffs started today, would go to the Charlotte Hornets at 20-23.
Again, that's NBA East basketball. That's nothing new. Every year we see that. It's usually, surprisingly, it's a little bit better because you're usually looking at 6, 7, and 8 floating around, at a losing record.
The other thing that I think is interesting about this, when you look at the top seeds, if the playoffs were to start today, who's losing their minds? TV executives. Look at these markets: Toronto, Milwaukee, Indianapolis. This is not what TV people want on TV at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for your opening game of the playoffs.
Well, I think maybe at a stretch, you've got some like as I look here, okay, maybe Milwaukee, you see them up there. Obviously Toronto at the top, you're hoping that whatever deals you got in Canada, that entire country is kind of supporting their team if they're getting behind there.
Basketball night in Canada.
There we go.
Shout out to Joe.
Hey, but Indiana, they got a strong following. They've got a rich history. People like the Pacers. It's kind of they draw from this entire Midwest here. Obviously, you got Boston, Miami, and with the Nets, they're pulling a little bit wider audience because the Knicks have been down for so long. People have to, kind of invest elsewhere if they want some playoff basketball. That's their options there.
Just remember, if you pull for the Brooklyn Nets, you are colluding with the Russians. Let's talk about the Western Conference, because the West is really, like you said, it's a tale of two leagues, and the West is the by far better league. But there's a surprise leading this thing. As things stand right now, your number one seed in the West, the Denver Nuggets, kind of coming out of nowhere. I mean, people expected Denver to be good, but I think they were expecting Denver to be like third or fourth in the West good, not leading the way here. They're just a really good basketball team. Sharing the ball, I mean, it's Golden State Warriors basketball.
Well, I think, what you're seeing here from the Nuggets is they're going back to what they really remind me of right now is Spurs basketball. Yep. They're playing as a team. They're very unselfish, and it's proven, so far they're kind of flying under that radar. They got the best record in the West of number one seed so far. But I wonder how stable are they? Right now they're there because the other teams seem a little unstable, but you got to believe, like the Warriors, the Thunder, the Rockets, they're going to get that ship right by the time you get to the playoffs, and that's a different style of basketball in itself. Do the Nuggets have enough to hang with those, super teams, if you will, into the playoffs?
If they can get the number one seed in the West, watch out. Because ain't nobody wanting to go into Denver at that altitude and run up and down a basketball floor for 60 minutes. I mean, there is that. But then, as you mentioned, when you look at the rest of the West here, Golden State, they're at only a half game back. So it's not like Denver's really running away with this thing. Golden State's Golden State. I mean, Kevin Durant's kind of turned into an asshole. But didn't we always know that Kevin Durant was kind of an asshole? I mean, we've kind of known that since Oklahoma City.
Right. It should really come as no surprise, before he showed his true colors here. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have, when you have egos like that, eventually you're going to get a little too big for each other, and you're going to run out of room, at the table. And we're starting to see that there, but you got to believe, though, they are professionals. They all want, they all want that ring. They all want to be the champion. So, and all that does really is when the thing does implode and they all have to go separate ways, it makes them all look good. This really reminds me of going back to football. I mean, yeah, the Nuggets, they're looking great. They're on fire here. But, just like the Patriots in the AFC, this is the Warriors division until they played their last game.
Yeah, I am going to make a bold prediction. I'll make it right now. Kevin Durant is playing next season in Washington, D.C., which completely changes the entire landscape of the East. Let's talk about OKC, the Thunder in third place. I hate Oklahoma City. I cannot stand Russell Westbrook. Rick, do you have any use for Oklahoma City at this point?
I do. I think they're a little bit of a surprise here. I thought, out of these dysfunctional teams, that these guys would have been the ones that would be completely out of the picture. They have surprised me here. But again, this is another case where they always hang in there. They're always one of those teams in the West that they more so beat up on the bottom dwellers of the West, but they can never really get over on, the upper tier there. So again, not a big surprise. And once we get to the postseason, I wouldn't be surprised, you see the Thunder again, a one and done.
James Harden pulling an Andrew Luck. He's telling the Houston Rockets, get on my back, I'm going to carry us. Harden goes off for 57 last night, 17 straight games with 30-plus. His third 50-point game of the season. The Rockets are 13-4 over this 17-game stretch. This is the beard just freaking going off, man. This is absolutely absurd what he's doing down there in Houston right now.
I get it. So impressive. What was the score? What was the final of that game last night? You happen to have it on here?
I don't have it right in front of me.
I saw some incredible stat. Where Harden goes for 57. The rest of the team or the bench goes for like 53.
Yeah, and sounds about right.
And the opponents only scored like 55.
Yeah, and this is always kind of my dog
Yeah,
on,
so it
on
was an
Russell
absolute,
Westbrook too, Where,
well,
where
and Harden's setting all these records here. I think he just went for like 20 out of 25 games scoring over 40 points, something ridiculous like that. But to me, I've never been able to really get behind or buy into this game. I know in this modern era of NBA, yeah, he is phenomenal. He is one of the standout players. But to me personally, I've always kind of held him responsible for what I do not like about the NBA, for what I despise about the NBA right now. He brings so many elements of soccer into this. The ultimate flopper. Absolutely loved the clip the other day where he just took the round ball right off of his face. It was almost like darted right at him. Everyone else just kind of froze, like they thought there was going to be a penalty or something, or if he okay. I mean, the ball actually it shoots right back to the gentleman who threw it at him, and it starts over the playback over. I just, to me, I know he's one of the elite players in this style of basketball. I can't get behind him in any way. So he's one of those guys in the league, one of those guys in sports that I regularly root against.
Yeah, for me, everything that you just said, I apply to Russell Westbrook. The rest of the West shakes out. Blazers, Clippers, who are just falling apart. Spurs actually putting something together down there in San Antonio, and then the Utah Jazz. But, of course, being a Lakers homer, let's talk about how awful the freaking Lakers are. Lakers outside looking in now. First one's out. 3-8 without LeBron James. They can't even beat the freaking Cleveland Cavaliers inside of the Staples Center. LeBron now down to 34.6 minutes a game. It's the lowest of his career because you guys rode him like a goddamn horse all the way to the finals last year. Huckleberry, what do you make of what's going on in Los Angeles right now? And can we please get LeBron James some help so that maybe he'll actually dress and get off the bench?
Well, let me ask you this. I want to throw something back at you. I mean, you are Mr. La La Land out there. Wasn't the whole point of, LeBron's going to go out there and elevate and help teach these kids how to, to play to that next level? And even from the bench, if he's such a great inspirer, is so important to the game, shouldn't he be able to lend a hand to help motivate from even the sideline? I don't see any of that from LeBron. And we're talking about an injury. Well, he looked fine the other day, dancing around in the Rams locker room.
Do you have? Well, I guess obviously I know the answer to this question. Have you ever been around teenage girls?
I'm not allowed anymore.
Understandable. So I obviously have a 12-year-old here at home, and I have a 15-year-old here at home, and I feel like I'm LeBron James, and they're Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma. All right? It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I say. Getting them to get up off of the fucking couch and take their dishes into the kitchen is impossible, to the point where I'm just like, screw it, I'll do it myself. In order to motivate somebody, they have to want to be motivated. And Lonzo Ball is the biggest, I don't care, man, attitude that I've ever seen in my freaking life.
Well, I think, then this is a point where LeBron, he can maybe speak for management, because it's going to resonate a little bit more, I think, coming from him, and just let people know, hey, you're on a short leash now. I'm sitting over here. I need you. If I'm going to help when I get back, I need something to help with. You guys can't let this entire thing unravel and believe. Hey, LeBron could throw it out there. Hey, I've ran off Kyrie Irving. I sure as hell can run off a Ball or whoever the hell you are there. I ran off one of the premier players in the league. You guys it ain't going to take me anything to convince management to cut your asses.
I mean, at this point, Hart's the only one that I would keep. I mean, if I can get myself an offer for Lonzo and Kuzma and Ingram and bring somebody like a Kawhi Leonard in, I'm freaking doing it.
Hey, I got it. LeBron comes back. Let's just start two people. We're pulling him down from the office. LeBron and Magic versus the other teams.
I'd be down with that. There's a lot of people compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. And, I mean, obviously Jordan's the GOAT, right? But to me, he's way more Magic Johnson than he's ever been Michael Jordan.
I think, it's really, you and I, we've had conversations about this before. We hold Magic Johnson in high regard. We put him up there amongst of the greatest. We've made arguments that he is the best that ever played. When you break it down just to his skill and what he meant to a team in that, you almost get to, with LeBron, the comparison to Magic is so much. It's such a stronger argument to me. it's almost like if you took Magic to that next level, when you have LeBron at his very best.
Yep, you can compare Kobe to Michael, but when it comes to LeBron, compare him to Magic. Let's talk about Duke. Goddamn Duke. We've been real close to this the last couple of games, Huckleberry. We survived down there at Florida State without Zion, and it's getting rough, man. Things are getting rough. Duke goes down to Syracuse last night, 95-91. God, I hate losing to Boeheim. I cannot stand Jim Boeheim. But the bigger story here, rather than just losing that game, Trey Johnson goes down with 14 minutes and 23 seconds left in the first half. The good news is the shoulder is not broken. The bad news is it's an AC joint separation, and he is out indefinitely. Rick, this is kind of like cutting the head off of the snake. Yeah, Zion is really good, but you got to have somebody who can get him the ball.
Well, I think we still got enough. We got enough, in the cupboard where we've got enough talent around there. We got Barrett Knight as well. So I think he's going to try to make a comeback for the postseason. Again, you see a loss like this, yes, it stings. You don't want to see your team go down, especially when you're number one in the land. All eyes are on you. You're kind of, and other people that follow the sport, they're involved with it. They look to you because your team's up here, and it's perceived that everyone else is kind of down here. To me, though, goes back to number one. Nothing matters until March. So we are sitting here in the middle of January, essentially the middle of the season. So this is the wears and tears. You get a little tired, You're not really playing for all that much right now, and it's going to happen to the best of the best. It happens to everyone, and we've seen Duke just kind of go into a slump here. Coach K is such an amazing coach, arguably one of the greatest coaches in all of sports. He's going to get this thing right. He's going to regroup these guys. They're going to get refocused all around. They're going to come back together. I am not worried one bit that come, early April, that Monday in early April, we're going to be ones cutting down the nets.
Well, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When it comes to Duke basketball, it's championship or bust, right? Like, as far as I'm concerned, this team is still good enough. Yeah, this is probably an Elite Eight team without Trey. But if we're going to win a national championship, I think we're going to need him.
Well, it's when you get down to the nitty gritty into the postseason there, into the tournament, you want every weapon there. I think with him, it separates us, drastically from everybody else. Without him, maybe they'll be able to hang. I still think we got enough firepower to take anybody down. This is a remarkable team, one of the best that we've seen in 10 years put together.
Zion does his part. He goes for 35 and 10 last night. I guess really the thing that really concerns me here, Rick, we scored 91 points in overtime, mind you, but we scored 91 points and lost. There is no reason that you should score 91 points in a college basketball game and lose.
What? Did you get to see a lot of it?
I didn't get to see the game at all.
Okay, I know because you were sleeping there, getting ready for the night shift, so I figured you went and watched some of the highlights there. I had it on the entire time. They were playing soft D. They were off the ball the entire time. They were giving up big shots. There wasn't a whole lot of hustle, and that goes back to it's this midseason slump, and that again, that falls on Coach K. You usually don't see that, but it happens to the best of the best. Coach K is going to recognize that, and he's going to fix the ship.
Mr. Pringle's defense, otherwise known as the Olé defense. Shout out to Mr. Pringles down there in Houston. The other thing I wanted to talk about, let's give Syracuse a little bit of love here, man. Tyus Battle goes off for 32 points last night, and I guarantee you if we played that game again today, they wouldn't do what they did last night. Syracuse goes 44% from three-point range. They only averaged 29% for the season. There's the difference in the frickin' game right there.
Hey, shooters are going to shoot, and when they're falling, they're hard to beat. Like I said, Duke was playing off. They weren't up in their face. It wasn't as aggressive defense as we're used to. Especially, I think what really stings the most is that this happened in Cameron.
Yes.
Going back to over the weekend, Saturday, that they just escaped. They could have been looking at 2 losses here.
Well, Florida State is this pain in our ass every season. I don't know what it is. We always play down to Florida State.
It's just kind of like that gnat, that's just kind of, you're trying to get rid of it all the time. They know how to play. They know how to play Duke.
The other big concern for me anyway right now, while Syracuse goes 44% when they average 29, Duke only shoots 21% from three. They average 33% on the season. I mean, Duke couldn't buy a bucket.
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't know if I'm sure they had it this morning. I would not have been in that practice session.
Huckleberry, check it out. We made it all the way to the end of the show. We actually ran long. The Twitch stream held up. I think that the new repeater might not be as big of a piece of crap as the old one.
There we go. Twitch is working with us, finally.
Hot dog, hot diggity dog. So that's going to wrap things up for this week's show. You're welcome for that. Thanks for listening and or watching here at twitch.tv/hitting the marks. We will be back, I'm guessing, sometime Friday afternoon, evening with an all-new episode of Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast at hittingthemarks.podbean.com. Until then, you can find the show on Twitter at HTMPWPod, on Facebook at Hitting the Marks, getting a whole lot of new followers and interactions over there at Facebook. Nice to see. You can find me across all social media platforms at NotJargo. RBV. Let's see. Which one of these teams? Let's see. If the Kansas City Chiefs need a wide receiver on Sunday, how do they find you?
Oh, there we go. Hey, I would love to be on the receiving end of one Mr. Mahomes there. But as always, you can check me out across all social media at The Real RBV. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of our fans out there know us and love us and interact with us through professional wrestling. So if you're not already, make sure you're heading over to Facebook, Nahami Media Discussion Group. We are gearing up towards the big Royal Rumble weekend. Going to be a lot of awesome activities going on over there.
That's it for this week's show. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, right back here at twitch.tv/hitting the marks with an all-new episode of HTM Sports. For now, we're off like a prom dress. See ya!